Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining Business Sustainability Talks by Shift Eco. My name is Namrata, and I'm the co-founder of Shift Eco. We at Shift Eco help companies in their sustainability journey. And as part of this journey, we are building out this series which gives you access to leading sustainability professionals and getting their input on what they do in their companies to drive sustainability. We've been running this series for the last couple of years, and I've had some really interesting conversations from sustainability leaders from across industries. Today, we are privileged to have with us one of these sustainability leaders, Dr. Yanni, from Vice President of Sustainability from Expo City. I don't think I will do justice to your introduction, Yanni, so I'll pass it on to you to introduce yourself to the audience. But before we get started, while we're here today to hear a lot from Dr. Yanni, hear about Expo City's role in sustainability, but this session is an interactive session. So if you have questions, if you have something that you're very, very interested in, this is also your opportunity to ask Dr. Yanni some questions. So please feel free to type on chat any questions that you may have, and we'll make sure that they're answered during this session. So without much ado, since we have just 1 hour with you, Dr. Yanni, over to you. I'll let you introduce yourself to the audience.
First of all, it's my pleasure of being here. Thank you for the invitation. I have been in sustainability sector for almost 25 years. My background is engineering, construction, business, a little bit involved in physics. Initially, I started working in sustainability thinking it can provide a benefit for the future generations. But working within the field and growing up, I can say sustainability is not only for the future generations, for us, especially with the challenges on environment we experiencing. But at the same time, it's a concept that includes a lot of different aspects more than environmental. In order to something to be sustainable, it has to be economically viable, socially sustainable, and environmentally sustainable. The last 12 years I have been in the region. I have been involved in projects in global destinations and future cities. For the last 18 months, I'm the Vice President of Expo City. We have a great team of specialists. And as part of the Expo City, we would like to provide a vision for the future towards becoming net zero by 2050. We want to focus the city to be a hub of innovation, sustainability, as part of a people-centric concept that includes also inclusivity, equity for all, well-being.
Right. No, I think it's a very interesting way you started. I think when people think of sustainability, they only think of environment sustainability. And I really want to start the session with focusing on how sustainability is a larger concept. It has to take into account financial sustainability as well. Traditionally, companies only thought about profit, right? That's how success was measured. Now it's an evolution of the way leaders have to think about running companies. So having been in the field for so long, how do you think this evolution from just a profit mindset to a profit and planet, how do you think that evolution has developed, and how have you seen the adoption of this?
It's a very good question, because you have to understand what sustainability means in reality. In this part of the world, Estidama, most of them is the word we're using. But in reality, sustainability is not just a term. It means something to last for long. And considering businesses and cities, we have to last for long. So we're seeing for long-term economic benefits rather than short-term. And then at a city perspective, we have to understand what a city is. And we can make correlations not for a city, for every businesses. A city is its people, because without people you cannot produce, you cannot expand. Is checking what is the challenges, the stresses of the future. And nowadays we have a lot of environmental concerns. And of course, it's the economic aspects that can combine these two parameters of social and environmental sustainability and try to produce products and services that going beyond the norm.
Right.
And if you think about that, sustainability is not just a concept, it's part of the overall strategy to see the future with less risk. and also provide added value services.
I really like the term you used, to see the future with less risk.
Yes.
You rarely hear that, so I think that's quite interesting. Now to take a step back, and now that we know the idea of sustainability is a focus on financial sustainability as well, there has to be a business case for sustainability for it to be adopted. Deep diving a bit into Expo City, I know you've been there for the last 2 years. If you could shed some light on the strategy behind how Expo City was formed and the tenets that were kept in mind during the design of the city itself.
Actually, I knew a lot of for Expo City before I became part of the Expo City, but now I'm part of the team. I understand more and more the great work that was done initially. Expo City, when it was designed with two visions. One, to deliver the successful event of Expo 2020, but at the same time to be a project that will last for long as a city. And a lot of studies that have been done, especially on environmental, consider this longevity. For example, during the floods last year, Expo is the example that I'm hearing any conference right now because the satellite saw that was not flooded. At the same time, a lot of studies that were done at the very early stages of the existing real estate assets included scenarios of future temperatures. The alleys between the buildings have been optimized to overcome overheating. And that was done at very early stage. When Expo 2020 finished, the city started having a vision which considered the bigger picture. And this vision includes now 4 sustainability focus areas, which are going to be broken into 12 different, but let's start from the strategic. The first is sustainable built environment, sustainable operations, engage community, and be able by 2050 to be net zero. So it's quite important to see that it's a continuation of work, and this work will continue based now on focusing how the city will operate better. And of course, we have the master plan, the big announcement that was made, a really good example how you can integrate within the real estate, the urban fabric, a human-centric environment which is connected to the nature, and focus on growth, but growth in a sustainable manner.
No, I think growth in a sustainable manner, and just talking about how it's linked with the UAE vision of 2050, the built environment contributes to 85% of the emissions of the UAE.
Yes.
So for an Expo City to be linked with emissions, to contribute to the reduction, the correlation is quite direct. So for the Expo City, what are the measures being taken to reduce emissions? Given the climate crisis that's going on, what is the plan to kind of reduce the emissions?
Built environment is a concern globally. I remember the statement by United Nations newsletter that almost a city of Paris is being built every couple of weeks, which is a big amount of real estate. And as we're growing, Dubai, if I'm not mistaken, growing between 3 to 5% annually in population. And that means there's going to be the need for new real estate. As part of the growth, we see the best practices achieved as part of the existing real estate assets. So we want to optimize the buildings, maximize the number of community tenants that prefer within the city to not use the car, which is quite important. Optimize the building in such a way during the operation to minimize the resources. Utilize the renewable energy sources that are already installed on the buildings. On the roof of the cities, there are about 5.5 megawatt photovoltaic panel. And last year, they produced about 7.5 gigawatt hours of electricity. Now, to take this in perspective, this is the equivalent of the carbon emissions that can be absorbed from 120,000 trees for 1 year. Of course, we're not stopping to look in the future. We have a decarbonization strategy. The idea, in order to be aligned with the UAE targets, is we would like to achieve a 40% reduction on operational emissions, which includes not only the buildings. Operations is mobility, buildings, expenditure, food, waste emissions, and then to achieve a 40% reduction on embodied carbon, which is quite important.
Yeah.
Because embodied carbon includes the buildings, but includes part of our supply chain as well.
Right. So I know you've covered a bit of the tenets of creating a sustainable space. So are there any other fundamental principles for creating these sustainable urban spaces?
I have been in Expo City during Expo 2020 and during the days of COP28.
Yeah.
During the Expo City, I like walk through the alleys. It was very comfortable environment. But what I noticed during COP28, people could gather outside and have a discussions, quite important discussions. It's good to mix, it's good to educate each other. An ecosystem can be produced with companies that focus on sustainability. Currently within the city, I believe there are about 55 different companies, mainly focusing on sustainability. And if you provide such an ecosystem, ideas with a global perspective, trying to produce solutions for the planet is feasible. Now, if we put the ecosystem, the individual companies together, there's a bigger benefit, not only for them, but also for the city.
Right. So the city itself has different parts, if I'm understanding
Yes.
correctly. One part is, of course, the residential part,
Yes.
which is the Expo Village.
Correct.
The second part is the city itself, which has these tenants that you're talking about, these 55 tenants that have offices in the city itself. And then there's, of course, so then there are these other initiatives that the city has, like the Impact Lab?
No, it's an urban lab.
Urban Lab,
Yes.
sorry. So maybe if you could tell us a little bit about the Urban Lab, because it's a very interesting topic.
It is a very interesting idea, which is currently being implemented. And you can go online, you can check Urban and Expo City. The main idea is that the city can be the basis, a testbed for technologies that or they have not been used in a city perspective, or have been used somewhere else and needs to be tested in the UAE. So the city provides to these technologies a testbed where it can be tested, and then we can assess how good they operate, give the advice back, and at the end of the day, the technologies provide a benefit and added value. Why not be used within Expo City? This is something new, and it's quite interesting because we already have a number of technologies tested with some beneficial outcomes for us. We look forward to have more of these technologies, and I can tell you in the past we tested extraction of water from air, improving the indoor environment. We have technologies in robotics. We had at some point some drones actually cleaning the windows or overlooking the photovoltaic panels. So it's a lot of things to be tested in a city that usually are tested in buildings or outside of the UAE.
Right. So you gave examples of the robotics and using cleaning windows. Are there any? Is there one signature sort of outcome from this urban lab that's being used at Expo City currently?
I cannot give a lot of details, but I can tell you that the building we occupy as our offices, the indoor environment has levels of contamination well below the European levels. So the air is so clean that it feels like you're on a mountain.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and at the same time, we save some energy by doing that.
Okay, great.
There are also some other technologies tested in the past. But if anyone has a great idea, just come to us, check the website of Urban Lab, and we're very open to discuss about it.
So, Expo City seems to be doing a lot. There are very different elements to it. What would you say are the SDGs that the Expo City impacts?
Yes.
I know some of them are very obvious, but which are the key SDGs that you all are working on at Expo City? And what kind of work are you all doing under each of these SDGs?
If you think for a city, the first sustainable development goal, just to clarify what SDG means, is number 11, is cities. Better cities, more sustainable cities, but at the same time, if you see what a city has and needs, includes all the SDG together. So SDG 11, I would say, is the pinnacle. As part of the delivery of operations and engagement with the tenants and also a sustainable built environment, we have classified our focus on 12 different areas. And I can go through quickly just to see how everything is linked together. Governance, SDG 4, 5, 16. Biodiversity, 14 and 15. Energy, 7 and 13. Water, 6 and 14. Society, 3, 8 and 17. Living, 3, 4 and 11. And I'm saying these numbers because if you see the environmental, you need good quality of air, you need good quality of water, you need good quality on land. But if you look in the societal parts of the operations of the city, we're definitely going to speak about better well-being, better livable spaces, better amenities, also good health and well-being. And this is in addition, of course, to climate action, providing a better future, which is the main idea of SDG as a framework.
Right. So there are many SDGs that you mentioned. If you had to highlight some of the key achievements under these SDGs, because they seem to be quite diverse,
yes,
what would those top 3 achievements be? And what could be 3 things that are still a work in progress for Expo City?
One of the things that is a highlight and people are welcome to see in the city is the climate action.
Yeah.
Climate action is a pinnacle of Expo City if we would like to achieve the 2050 decarbonization.
Yeah.
Low carbon, low energy buildings with renewable energy, a city that doesn't use fuel within the city for its mobility, and it's something that will progress further, and we're looking for partners and ideas how to move it forward. But we need to remember at the same time, it's a people-centric city. So anything that has to do with well-being, with societal achievements, with inclusivity, accessibility, Expo City is a real example. Especially the work that is done on accessibility and inclusivity is amazing. Everybody can go. Inclusivity of families, inclusivity of women. So you can go there as a family and enjoy, where you can be there working at the same time and have the same benefits. It's the overall picture of how SDGs by 2030 can be delivered in some ways. And that's why we say Expo City is a blueprint of sustainable development at a community level and at a city scale level.
Right. So while it's a blueprint, what could be areas where Expo City is still looking at partnerships or areas that still need to be developed? Because we truly believe sustainability is a journey.
It is.
And even decarbonization is a journey.
It is.
So to understand, there are many things Expo City is doing great, but what other initiatives are required for it to come to life?
The initiatives include anything from providing solutions for the planet.
Yes.
We also want to educate more. Where do you educate more our people? Where do you educate more the corporate world? Expo City also is a visitor's destination.
Yes.
So we see more and more events. We see sustainable events.
Yes.
We have one of the first sustainability event management standard. And for some events, actually for all of our events, more than 50 people who calculate now the full embodied carbon and the full emissions of the event. And we would like to be one of the leaders by 2030 in sustainable events management.
Right.
The technological advantages are moving forward, and as a city we have to be open to see what is developed.
Right.
And that's why we have experts that are not looking only on sustainability, experts that look in smart systems, experts that look in artificial intelligence, experts that look in different types of sustainability, including circular economy. Now we'll go back to inclusivity because it's quite an important aspect.
Right. So I like the fact that you're mentioning about visitors, because you're absolutely right. One key important aspect of Expo City is these large scale events it runs. I mean, we saw the scale of Expo even in the middle of the pandemic. It was such a iconic event. We saw COP28 and the scale of the COP itself. So education initiatives are huge for Expo City. So what are the most impactful educational initiatives that Expo City has implemented, and how is Expo City playing a role in inspiring change?
Terra is one of the key buildings that has the sustainability advantage during Expo 2020 presented to the world.
Right.
Terra is continuing to be an education and cultural hub with a number of venues around it that provide training to students. We have a lot of young people visiting there, and the Terra team is doing great work to expand the knowledge of sustainability in many different ways. There's some really interesting presentations. They have the honeybees moving their back. They have the gardens. And this will continue to grow. At the same time, I believe you have heard about different events that's happening within Expo City. For example, the next 2 days we have the Cities in Action Forum, where leaders of the world are coming to speak about the cities and how cities will grow. And within the city, we try to educate all the visitors by messaging, by our social media, by communication, by explaining what sustainability means and how it feels.
Right.
And what we want to give the message is not something additional. It's something part of the connectivity with nature, it's part of the day life. And we see more and more visitors. It's quite interesting to see that events are happening. Last week there was a big concert. And I saw the city full of people during the evening. Yesterday I left the office, it was a marathon. And there are a lot of different events happening, and all of the events are happening within a city in the UAE that is full of biodiversity, that is strong biodiversity and linked to the nature.
Right. So we've taken a point of view from the visitors, but how is Expo City encouraging its residents as well as its tenants as well in this whole sustainability journey? What are the education initiatives, or what are the other initiatives to encourage the tenants and residents as well to follow sustainability principles?
Everything needs to be strategically put forward. First of all, you need to have the sustainable infrastructure to work.
Yes.
In order for the infrastructure to provide the systems and also the means to be sustainable, and that's circular economy, energy, and weight monitoring. The next step is to be able to provide to those individuals the knowledge of what's happening within the city. And Terra again is a great example. Everybody should go to Terra and learn about the programs, but at the same time we're providing our knowledge to everyone that would like to be part of this ecosystem.
Right.
Of course, the last item is the feedback. You cannot have an education unless you understand what's the impact of what we're doing and how we can improve the impact. And some of the performance indicators or metrics are moving metrics. We would like to improve and we would like to learn about those. The city is a living education example by itself. If you move around, you can see how you can be sustainable. You can take your bike, as called, to move around. You can walk. You can go through the parks. You can go through the sustainable buildings and feel how a city that's designed for humans is optimized and provides a very good vibe, actually.
Right. So, I mean, the concept of a 15-minute city, for all the viewers today, if you could maybe tell us a little bit about the 15-minute city, which is also a design principle of Expo City.
The 15-minute city is a concept that came mainly from Europe. And the idea is when you're within the city to have all these services that is important for you, which includes education, includes well-being, healthcare, in order to be able within your day to commute to them at very short periods of time.
Right.
So you're saving time, you'll be able to walk most of the time. So better well-being, better societal connectivity, better amenities. And taking this example in a city perspective, and especially in this region that historically the movement of people has done by the cars. If you put all these elements of living within a space strategically located, then it's possible to have your community living within the city without being able to move outside of the city and have all the benefits they need. That's the concept.
Right.
The LEAF design, the Expo 2020 design, was considering the 15-minute city from the very early stages.
Yeah.
And now, as the city is growing to a master plan, to a bigger master plan, this concept actually expanded further and is alignment with the 2040 Dubai strategy about the future master plans.
Right.
That all the cities will be connected better.
Right.
I see it as a benefit for the society and also the well-being of individuals.
Right. So, but the way we're looking at cities now, it's being redefined, right? So it's a bit of change management. So how do you get people to understand these concepts? And I think it goes back to my question of education, where all of us as city residents are wired not to think of things the way you're describing them, or not understand the value of this 15-minute city. So how is this being communicated to laymen like a lot of people, so that they can connect with these principles that you're speaking of?
The 50-minute city is a concept that, unless you read to understand what it is, it's quite difficult to get as an idea. It's confusing. Some people, they don't understand it. We have seen that some of our attendants, by moving to Expo City and living with this 50-minute environment, the occupancy of their offices has been increased. More people would like to go to the office.
Right.
And the benefits are seen and felt when you're going to come and spend some time.
Right.
Some people may find that it's a little bit more difficult to leave the car and walk, but I am doing that for the last 18 months. And I love walking to my work every day, but I like that if I would like to get something, I can jump, go around, get it without need to take my car.
Yes.
Of course, we have the electric buggies, which is a sustainable way of moving around the city. But for people who like to exercise, we have the bicycles as well.
Yes.
And if you think about the long-term vision, it would be nice to have a community where you don't need to go out of the community for most of your time. And if you would like to go to buy something or experience the service, to go to a restaurant, just walk there and exercise.
No, I think that sounds ideal, especially now that we see the city is getting more and more congested, and traveling from place A to place B is taking much longer than it historically would. A 15-minute city sounds music to my ears, at least.
If I want to correlate it with a business, okay, the 15-minute city is a very good concept because it takes an environmental problem and it turns to social solution.
Yes.
And that can be done within businesses as well.
Yes.
Because you take the mobility issue and you turn it to the advantage for the community.
Yes.
This can be the same for people who work within the organization.
Right.
Take a problem and turn it to something that actually your staff can be benefited out of it.
So like a business case for it, for even the staff, they are wasting lesser time going into office because they live around the corner, and therefore their productivity is higher. They have more.
That's the vision. That's the vision. And should be the visions of the city overall.
Right. No.
Try to connect. And if you see the balance of the new master plan, which is amazing to see, it will have 40,000 commercial tenants or people working and 35 residential. So it's a very good balance of growth.
Right. So the Expo City has a lot of different partnerships at play, right? There are a lot of different stakeholders involved. So can you share some innovative partnership models that have proven to be very effective for advancing sustainability in particular in Expo City?
The partnership is of collaboration. If a company has an idea that can work together, we able to understand better how the technology can be fitted, tested it as I mentioned before, and also use it and advise other cities how this can be used.
Right.
This kind of partnership has a lot of benefit. Also, we're looking for partnerships with universities.
Right.
We're looking partnerships with organizations. We have some partners, for example, for accessibility.
Right.
It's quite useful. There are some other partnerships currently moving forward in relation to technological advantages at city scale level. And this is something that we have to think how we operate it, because an organization cannot be closed within the limits of the organization, needs to understand what's the needs for the following years and trying to make partnerships in the specific fields.
Right, right. So in these partnerships with universities, there's so much that can be done. It's, train them young, as a lot of them say.
Yeah.
So what are some of these other specific initiatives you can speak about in the university space?
In the university, we're trying to understand what is the current research undertaking. Also, we open for graduates to come to work without getting their experience.
Right.
And we have seen actually, and especially with the sustainability team, the graduates have a lot of power in the mind because they're coming from a generation, they see the things slightly different than us.
Right.
And they have a great ideas. And the graduates are focused more on partnerships,
right,
thinking, rather than some people that have been in the industry for longer. We also like to understand what is the research and development happening in areas of sustainability and circular economy.
Right.
A lot of the challenges of the future may exist now in ideas.
Right.
And unless we understand what the ideas can grow, we cannot be able to solve the problems. I mean, decarbonization is a big challenge.
Yes.
A lot of people discuss about decarbonization,
yes,
providing solutions, but if we take the steps to go there, it's a big challenge. And the challenge is not on the technologies that will be feasible or technological advance to be used, but the cost of them at the right and the maturity and the scalability.
Right. You picked my next question yourself, Yanni. I wanted to talk about decarbonization.
Yes.
I know we've touched upon it briefly in the last, half an hour that we've been speaking. If we can deep dive a little bit further into the decarbonization strategy of Expo City. We understand our challenges with decarbonization, but broadly how that looks currently, what the plans look like.
Yeah.
And if you could shed some light on that.
Yeah, I would like to define this not a strategy as a roadmap.
Right.
It's a roadmap because we know where we are.
Yes.
We can see the next 3 years, but we cannot see the next 25 years. That's why it needs to be a roadmap. But as part of the roadmap, we're open for ideas. The first element was to be able to reduce the emissions of our existing real estate assets.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of space on improvement. The target by 2030 was 45%, but if you see the trajectory of the improvements we can achieve, I will not say specifically that we can achieve it, but we're going through very good reduction right now. But operation emission is not just the buildings, and that's the idea of a city. City is not just the buildings. Transportation emissions. We have the metro. We're supporting more and more people using the metro. We're supporting more and more people using electric vehicles. Long term, and in alignment with the policy of UAE that by 2050, 50% of the vehicles to be electric. In the long term, we're looking about 20,000 electric vehicle chargers within the Expo City, which is a big number. Then it's about food, and it's about what we're buying within the city. The supply chain. For the supply chain, we have partnered with a global organization called EcoVadis that's supporting us to be able to assess our supply chain, the emissions, sustainability, environmental, and social aspects.
Right.
So if we reach a point to do the maximum on energy efficiency, reducing our emissions for our supply chain, the next is how we'll be able to remove emissions.
Right.
Nature-based solutions used to be an idea. Working with partners to be able to optimize and improve renewable energy in the bigger picture is the next step.
Right.
And the last option must be carbon credits.
Right.
Even though for some parts of the city of the operations, like the events, carbon credits may be needed a little bit earlier due to the commuting of people traveling, because an event has emissions that's not directly linked within the boundary of the city.
Right.
That's why we have a program that's called Seeds of Change.
Called what?
Seeds of Change.
Okay.
It's phase 2 right now.
Okay.
And we supporting the individuals that they would like to contribute an amount for the decarbonization of the commuting to the city for event.
Right.
By doubling this amount and giving the adherence to the project they're choosing.
Right.
So we're working collaboratively with them to do something good for the planet and reduce our carbon emissions.
Right.
Everything will change. Personally, I believe a roadmap or a strategy needs to be reviewed every 3 to 5 years.
Yes.
Because we have to see what's the new challenges, the new risk, how good we did, and get our lessons learned.
Yes.
The decarbonization roadmap of Expo City Dubai is going through the second year, and we're already starting seeing the benefits and also the items we will have to learn about them and do something better.
Right.
And in some cases, in order to reduce emissions, we'll have to work with other partners. It's impossible to do something by yourself. Yeah.
No, I really like the fact that you mentioned that it needs a renewal and it's a roadmap, and it has to be an iteration based on what's working and what is probably not working and doesn't need to be done, right? So I really like that approach. So on that topic, what would be your advice for other entities that are trying to decarbonize? And I know it's a very broad question.
No, it's a very good question. It's a very, very good question. Because decarbonization, again, is a concept.
Yes.
So, first of all, for each different businesses, it means something different.
Yes.
The question is how far you want to go as part of the decarbonization. Expo City correctly said decarbonization must happen on what's called Scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions.
Yeah.
Scope 1 emissions are the emissions that are part of fuel burning within the city, about cars and other fuel technologies that use fuels. Scope 2 is about the electricity that we're using from the grid.
Right.
Most of the companies stop there, but they don't see the bigger item of the carbon emission, which is Scope 3. And Scope 3 involves the supply chain.
Which is the toughest one to crack?
It's the toughest one, but the trickiest enough.
Yes.
Because if Expo City would like to understand the scope, let's put it in words, the total emissions of its supply chain, the supply chain itself has to understand the total emission of their own supply chain.
Right.
And this will take time. The Federal Law 11 of 2024 puts the first foundation because it requires companies with more than 500,000 tons of carbon dioxide emissions to be able to report Scope 1 and 2 and put the foundation for Scope 3 in the long term. But it's impossible for an organization to decarbonize unless they see how the Scope 3 emissions, the supply chain emissions are reduced and define them.
Right.
So I will suggest the first thing is define your boundaries.
Yes.
And get as much data as possible.
Yes.
And for the data that you don't have, try to make as good projections as feasible based on the knowledge of your supply chain.
Right. So the first would be baseline and then just becoming as data intensive as a company as possible.
Baseline is important. It needs to be done with a boundary assessment. Boundary assessment where your emissions stop and where your emission starts.
Right. Right. So today, I'm sure the viewers and people who will be watching this recording who couldn't attend today could also be from different industries. So I want to get your perspective on what you think is advice for someone who's starting their sustainability journey. Sometimes the word sustainability can be so daunting that while people have best intent in mind, they don't know where to get started. So what would be your recommendations to a company who's just starting out on their sustainability journey?
Organizations need to provide sustainability to 3 parameters we discussed at early stage of this discussion, which is economy, social, and environmental.
Right.
Sustainability cannot be something that will focus on what they say green sustainability or environmental sustainability.
Yeah.
It's important to see how sustainability can improve the social and the human resources aspects of the organization, and at the same time find solutions or products that are sustainable and can provide added value, which this added value can support them financially, economically, and in the long term.
Right.
For people that they don't know a lot of sustainability, My advice will be to start from international standard. And I will give an example of what Expo City is doing currently, which is quite good thinking. We have the building regulations, for example. The building regulations, the minimum regulations, how to operate within the UAE and Dubai. Even though the Dubai regulations, the latest edition, have improved so much on sustainability that has great benefits, it provides the minimum requirements. But there are international standards that people can see. I'll mention LEED, BREEAM, WELL, which provide the best practice globally on specific items of sustainability.
Right.
So if you go to check your business and understand which kind of the standards applicable to your organization internationally,
Right.
you can get good ideas what is proven in some ways
Yes.
and what has been tested, because these standards have been developed in most of the cases with a review of 1,000 people as part of their development.
Right.
And I will not say it's greenwashing, but saying all the time as an organization I'm sustainable and provide a few examples of environmental solutions, it is sustainable, but doesn't see the big picture. You're losing the opportunity. And the opportunity is to advance your businesses, thinking all three parameters together: economic, social, and environmental.
Right. No, I think the whole thing of tools and resources, you already answered my question about looking at more established, international standards in whichever industry people
Yes.
are looking at. Are there any other recommendations you have on tools that people can use when starting their journey, or any other recommendations that you could say?
I don't like to highlight the specific tools,
Sure.
but one of the documents that people need to understand more is the GHG protocol,
Yes.
Greenhouse Gases Protocol. In some ways explains how carbon emissions are managed through the organization, or where you have to focus.
Yeah.
Of course, the United Nations Sustainability Development Goals, because that actually puts a different perspective on the mindset of what is sustainable in the long term.
Right.
And the examples we're giving for the 17 different sustainability development goals can be the basis of new products and new ideas.
Yeah.
And if you would like a tool, I will suggest a tool for the individuals that now have a lot of these tools to be able to measure your carbon emissions as an individual and as a family.
Right.
That's
a nice tool. Which one do you recommend?
I don't want to go
sure.
to specific names, but if you go on the internet and says, I would like to measure my carbon emissions in family, there are not many different tools.
Yes.
In this part of the world, I can see some trends.
Yes.
But again, you see how much your carbon emissions are high due to the way you're living, due to the car usage and not taking the metro, due to the type of food you're eating.
Yeah, I was going to just say that. All us non-vegetarians.
Yeah, I mean, it must be a balance,
Yes.
but it has to be a good balance.
Yes.
Or the amount of waste. I mean, nowadays we don't think how much packaging comes in and out of each house every day. Yeah, that's a good tool. Everyone should assess their own carbon emissions.
No, I think that's a really good point. And as we're speaking, I'm quickly looking at the chat, and there are a lot of questions already in the chat. So for everyone who's attending live, please feel free to keep typing. I'm going to go through all the questions now before the time is up. So we have a question from Chimsy, who's asking, is the Urban Lab open for public visits?
Urban Lab is a concept. It's not just a place, a venue. We have other venues where people can experience what Expo City.
Right.
It is a facility that people can come and test the technology. So it's not a physical place.
Right.
But if they have any technology, we'll be able to test it. I'm sure we're more than happy to evaluate it and assess it if it can be used within the city perspective.
Okay. We have a question from Zainab. From what are the ways to achieve sustainability with a green marketing concept?
Okay, green marketing concept. Whatever you're going to do, don't greenwash.
Yes.
That's very important. Have your facts right, have your data right.
Yes.
Think what the positive impact you can make.
Yeah.
Historically, greenwashing lasted for short benefits, not for long-term benefits.
So being very sure of what you're saying and making sure it's factually correct.
Factually correct, and highlight the benefits you provide to the society and the environment,
Right.
the actual benefits.
Right. We have one from Angelica. In a city where vehicular circulation dominates the everyday life, what strategies are adopted for Expo City to prioritize walkability and cycling within its location and adjacent developments which are expected to expand to a master plan? I think more from a
Yes.
Jebel Ali and the Al Maktoum airport coming up sort of perspective. So what are the design?
Expo City has a great benefit of connected to the metro.
Right.
We have very good bus linkages with the other surrounding areas. Within the city currently, we don't use cars. We use electric buggies, which some of them are powered by renewable energy directly. We have the e-scooters, so we're providing all the facilities where people can leave the cars just outside of the Expo City and be within the Expo.
Is this in Expo Village as well?
Expo Village, I think you can get your electric baggage, you can move around.
Okay.
So the facilities there exist.
Okay.
In the scooters. I don't see an actual design currently. I haven't seen for connectivity with other areas.
Right.
But the master plan, as it will be developed, will consider and facilitate the easy movement of people within that, and providing clear corridors for pedestrians, clear corridors for cars, for bicycles, and provide these amenities that people need to move within the city without a car. But I would like also to remind everyone the big announcement that was made a few weeks ago about the 40 kilometers sustainable route around Dubai.
Yes.
And I believe when this will be developed, will benefit not only the people of Dubai, but every visitor and tourist that comes into the city.
Yeah, so there's so much change happening. It's hard to.
It's nice to see all of these things. Yes,
absolutely. We have another question from Claire. With the different SDGs you're working on at Expo City and the importance for the future, what types of profiles are you still in need of? Sustainable professionals? You mentioned about experts. How about more junior profiles? Who can we reach out to if we're inspired by what is being done at Expo City and would like to be part of it?
I'll start from the last part of the question. Everyone's welcome to the Expo City, speak to the staff, speak to the people, and has a very, very high level number of people with global expertise that have been tested the knowledge. So come to talk to us.
Right.
And looking how the city will move forward on the sustainability aspects, expertise in inclusivity, nature-based solutions, sustainable education,
right,
always going to be needed. And nowadays we have the technological advantages.
Right.
So individuals with technology-driven minds always, helpful.
Right. Right.
And if somebody would like to say about our work, if that's a question about, of course, you can go to the website.
Yeah.
We have a specialized page on sustainability. In some ways, I believe we give more information than what we should as a city, but you can go through all the data we have. You can go through the last 4 sustainability annual reports, GRI driven, so you can see the full picture of what can be achieved within the city and what people need to do if they would like to work with us.
Right. Another comment is talking about a 15-minute city. It would be a huge difference if the mall was actually operating, which was due to open in 24.
Okay.
When would that be?
I don't know the actual date, but I'm passing through that, and things are happening.
Things are happening.
If you consider about that, we have a new supermarket within the Expo City right now.
Yeah.
We have Spanos, and we have one of the most advanced facilities.
Right.
We have also the DC being fully operational. Interesting enough, today they have a big conference on artificial intelligence. And when the mall will open, we'll provide all that the city needs. And I believe people will not like to move out of the city.
Okay. Another comment from Claire was about when designing the city and looking at the city, what was a thought on green spaces in the city? In comparison to sustainable city, the green spaces seem to be limited. Is there a thought behind it?
I'll start from Expo 2020. Expo 2020 was designed, it is about 1 square kilometer, and has 25,000 square meters of green areas and hardscape areas. Now, as we're moving to a bigger master plan, this will be increased proportionally. So what you have seen as part of Expo 20 will become part of the bigger plan.
Right.
But I would like to also to highlight some other things that already been announced. There is going to be Expo Valley, which is going to have a nature reserve park within that. As part of the master plan will be a big park between the Expo Valley and the Expo City, and park with full-grown trees. There's going to be also a farm, a sustainable farm at some point. There's going to be a lot of trees, and we like to use the trees of the city to provide safe passages and reduce the temperatures for the people that would like to commute and walk within the city.
Right. Yeah, I think for the peak summer that would be very, very beneficial.
It's useful. I mean,
Yes,
it's always nice to
yes,
walk.
always, yeah.
Gives you a good vibe as well.
Yeah, it's calming and it's nature has its own. There's a question from Navid who talks about thanks you for sharing your insights. It would be great if you can go through some light on partnering with Expo City for pilot projects, Innovate X 2025 to provide sustainable solutions.
Again, I will refer back to the Urban Lab. Everyone can go and write on the internet or Google Expo City Urban Lab.
Yeah.
You can see how the whole thing is structured, and we're open. And we have a team. We have some specialists that have done that in the previous life, and they know how to manage this kind of situations on testbed solutions.
Right.
Be in contact with us. It's good to have solutions that the right time of maturity.
Right.
And solutions that actually have potential for growing even further.
Right. We have a very different and an interesting question from James. How do you create value to your partners and how do you finance your projects? Do you take green bonds?
All right. I would like to highlight that Expo City, it is self-financing their projects.
Right.
I will not go into details of green bonds or not.
Sure.
I don't think it's part of this discussion. However, as an Expo City, I can confirm if somebody goes our annual sustainability report,
right,
it will see a full compliance with the requirements of the financial sustainability loans, if that was the case. The partnership is by providing an added value, by working collaboratively, exchange ideas, and if it's possible, trying to find target areas with both the city and the organization can work together and expand further.
Right. No, thank you for that input. I think with this we end the questions, and it's so perfectly timed because we have just 5 minutes left for the discussion. So before we end, Dr. Yani, firstly, thank you so much for all your insights. I know I asked you so many questions and you gave such detailed answers, so thank you for that. I'd like to leave the floor for you to give any last minute comments or what people can do for sustainability at a personal level as well as a business level. Any advice, any last thoughts that you'd have for the audience?
Yes. As an engineer, when I heard the first time about sustainability, I was quite conscious of what that means because it's a generic word. Sustainability is not about something we have to develop, but in some ways it's a way of living, in a way of living that you optimize and you make your life more efficient and make your project more efficient, but at the same time trying to see the future, trying to see what it is there as part of the challenges, social and environmental challenges, and try to evaluate how out of the challenges you can provide services and products. The products and services are specific to solutions that people have a need or solutions that the environment have the need. Sustainability is a way of thinking rather than a title or rather than a concept that's written on the book.
Right.
It has to do a little bit more about future planning.
Yeah.
Future planning that it's advantageous with less risks.
Right.
And if you see your business in that way, potentially you're going to have a benefit in the medium to long term.
Right.
Nothing is expensive. A lot of the solutions nowadays, they have a reasonable payback period. A lot of solutions nowadays exist. There is a lot of different suppliers of sustainable anything, products, events. The question is, do you ask the right questions And do you do your market research to understand what you're buying, what you're getting, can provide a benefit, and also help at the same time you, your family, your businesses.
Right.
It is a chain, and it's full of partnerships. I would like to see more partnerships on sustainability. We would like to see more people working and seeing together the solutions and how can contribute and scale up any solutions that currently exist.
No, thank you so much for that advice. I think we are all going to think about the future planning and reducing our risks. So thank you again for being here today, for answering all the questions, and for all your amazing input during the session. I thoroughly enjoyed the session, and I'm sure everyone watching also enjoyed. For everyone that came here live today, thank you so much for joining. For everyone watching this recording, the idea of business sustainability talks is to keep this conversation going, to learn from sustainability leaders, to get a platform to ask questions to these sustainability leaders. We run these sessions every other month, so please follow ShiftEco and follow our next sessions. If there are specific topics in sustainability that are of interest to you, feel free to write to us at hello@shifteco.ae. We want to make content that that you want to hear about, that you want to sort of understand. And the whole aim of this series is to unpack different elements of sustainability so that we all can partner and work towards a more sustainable future. So thank you so much for joining again, and thank you again, Dr. Yani, for today.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you very much for inviting me to have this interesting discussion today.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.